The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, with the four aces, or the four lads. What do we name them? The Fab Four? I don't know, but we've been doing this together, the four of us, four of you guys, and me, for going on 6 years. And it's been a delight for me. Time goes fast. So let me introduce the Fab Four. Hal Bock.
Hi,
how are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be back on the air.
Good. And David Hubler's here. How are you, David?
Okay, good. Happy New Year to everybody. And it is good.
Happy New Year to you and everybody. This is our first time getting together in January, and the year 2023. Do you ever live to think you'd ever live to see it be 20-something? I haven't, but Alan Blumkin, I'll bet, is surprised that
I'm even here.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
I'll be 80 in 4 months. I know with George and Hal, I'm a kid.
You are, Alan.
Happy New Year, everybody. It's good to be back.
Yeah. This is good to have you. And George Case III. How are you, George?
Hey, I'm doing fine. It was interesting, Ralph, you mentioned about our ages. I remember I was born in 1940, and I thought, well, my Lord, if I ever get to the year 2000, I'd be 60 years old. Well, now I'm 82 years old. So.
Right, and it's
doing good, George. You're doing good.
Yeah, thank you, Hal.
We were talking with Hal. I was talking with Hal a little bit off the air early on. It is a privilege to be the age we are, and have all. George, I'm going to teach you an expression. It's a Yiddish expression. I don't have to teach these other Yids, but I do you. It's called seichel. Your brain.
That's right.
Seichel. And
thank you for the education, Ralph. I appreciate that.
Well, what I mean is, when we reach the age of 75 plus or 50 plus, whatever it is, it's only good if you have your seichel, because it is. And I've never met four guys who have their seichel and have an incredible memory like you guys. So
yeah, I have a friend who I can hardly, who turned 81 a couple of days ago, and I can hardly talk to him anymore because he'll ask me the same question 5 times in 10 minutes. It's sad. It's really sad.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you weren't talking about me, were you?
No.
No. Okay, I got to check. You weren't talking about me, were you?
No.
No. I got to check myself every now and again.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to lead off with Hal Bock. You're going to pick the topic, and I think you already did, about number 3. And you guys will chip in. We'll start with that. As usual, we'll go from here to there and cover it all and not begin to cover it all. Hal Bock?
Well, I was asked to come up with a subject, and it's really an easy call this last week and so. The kid in Buffalo, DeMar Hamlin, who went down in the game a week ago last night, Monday Night Football. He had cardiac arrest and essentially died on the field. He was brought back. His heart was restored by some tremendous work by the trainers and medicine men who were on call. They put a defibrillator on him. And the amazing part of that story is that a week later, he was discharged from the hospital. He's walking around the hospital. He's talking. He's watching the game. He's rooting. It's unbelievable recovery by this guy. Now, I'm sure
he went back to Buffalo yesterday.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
I'm sure the fact that he was a football player in pretty good shape helped him in that situation. Well, what an amazing, amazing story. For this kid to be carried off the field in that condition and a week later be back home in Buffalo, it's amazing. Now, but the only thing about this whole saga that troubles me a little bit is, two things, actually. When Hamlin went down, I mean, it was a shocking moment, and the players were on their knees. There were people crying. It was horrible. And the next thing you know, you get word that, the game is going to resume in 5 minutes, after 5 minutes. Are you kidding me? How do you even think about resuming the game? The league did. No, we didn't really think about resuming the game. That was a mistake. They made a mistake. ESPN made a mistake. I don't believe for a moment that ESPN made a mistake. I'm sure that their intention was to resume the game until the two coaches said, we ain't resuming this game, because they had their players to deal with. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing that troubles me is, we go through this week, a very emotional, heart-rending week for this kid who was on an intubator, is that what's called? Anyway, he was in bad shape when he got to the hospital, and he was in recovery. He had a breathing tube in his nose and the whole thing. And now we get to the game on Sunday, and what do you know? The opening kickoff is returned for a touchdown. Now, I'm a suspicious kind of a guy, being a newspaper man for so many, many years. I just wonder about that. Now, I know that Bill Belichick, the coach of the Patriots, wouldn't be happy about giving up a touchdown on the first play of the game. At the same time, is it suspicious to you guys that on the opening play after this emotional week, Buffalo scores a touchdown on a kickoff return? I don't know. I had trouble with that whole thing.
No, I don't believe that.
You don't believe what?
No, that was fixed because the guy ran another kickoff back for a touchdown later in the game.
I know that. And
Belichick would never be a party to something like that. He'd make such a stink. Such a stink over that if they suspected that you wouldn't hear the end of it.
Did you think
it would totally hurt the league's PR, and as we know, the NFL's one of the NFL's or any major sports leagues' prime objective is good PR, a great PR.
That's very articulate, Alan, and that expresses it all. Except what makes me laugh on that statement is that Bill Belichick deflated footballs. So I don't think he's all that concerned with the up and up of the game or whatever, whether that part was fixed or not. Belichick isn't the guy that would be offended. Let's put it that way.
No, I think he would be. I mean, deflating footballs is one thing, but you're screwing with the integrity of the game, and you can't You can't let that something like that. Yeah, it's like I had to go back 100 years, but it's like when the Black Sox scandal erupted in 1920.
Alan, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Were you the least bit suspicious of that moment?
No.
Oh, okay. I was.
Now, the major sports leagues have to give the impression that everything is on the up and up as far as the playing of the game is concerned.
I just don't trust the National Football League. I'm sorry. I've seen too many things that left me wondering what the hell is going on here, especially with the officiating.
The officiating in all sports is terrible.
Well,
right about that.
Yeah.
The ESPN story, Hal, leaves me shivering with disgust. You're going to disregard for human beings, disregard for fans who had to watch a guy die and then
it wasn't
come back.
ESPN, it was Fox Sports. Skip Bayless, an idiot who has a show in the morning, who I wouldn't watch him for 2 seconds ever. He came out and said that they should have resumed the game. That's where the stink came from on that.
Well, but they had announced that. The ESPN, the night before, had announced that they were going to wait 5 minutes and then resume the game.
Yeah, because my impression, because I was watching it at the time, my impression is when he went down, I was waiting for the game to resume because it was a very important game. And I figured, when he went down like that, I figured it was either a ACL or a Achilles or something like that where he couldn't stand up. And then when they announced CPR, that's a whole different level.
That's right. And so when they announced that, were you surprised to hear them say, well, we're going to resume the game in 5 minutes?
I didn't buy that. I think that they were just hoping because it was a big game. The ratings, if it was a game between two teams that were terrible, like the Bears and the Texans, nobody would care about the game.
The guy nearly died on the field,
I know.
Alan.
I know.
I mean, what about the milk of human kindness? Some compassion here.
That's in rare supply these days, unfortunately.
I'm aware of that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. One other thing, he had to be resuscitated again when he first got to the hospital. His heart stopped yet again at that time.
He's a pit man. Yeah.
They haven't said what caused this to happen, but here in New York, we have had at least one that I can remember of a young kid playing Little League Baseball getting hit in the chest with a line drive at a specific moment when between heartbeats, and it killed him. The kid died on the mound, the pitcher. So I'm wondering if that might have been the cause of what happened to Hamlin, that the collision with the Bengals player occurred like a perfect storm.
Yeah.
In between that millisecond between heartbeats.
I think you're right.
Hal, this is George. I just wanted to mention, I'd heard some cardiologists that were discussing this, and apparently there is a cycle in the heart rhythm, and that particular instance was that very brief time when if there is an impact, it could stop the heart.
Yeah.
And this, I'm certainly not a cardiologist, a medical professional in any sense of the word, but they did talk to cardiologists who are very familiar with this, and they said while it was obviously extremely rare, there is a time when the cycle of the heartbeat is such that if there's a blunt force collision or an object, that it could definitely stop the heart.
It's like a perfect storm.
Right. Yep.
It's it's chilling because collisions that take place on a football field. I never played football. I was smart enough not to play football, but I did cover a lot of games. And I remember, and I may have mentioned this on another earlier show. I remember covering a game in Philadelphia one year, and what they did was they took the writers down from the press box to the sideline to have access to the clubhouse instead of having to work your way through the crowd. So now we're on the sideline with a couple of minutes to play, and it's a blowout game. It was Miami and the Eagles, and Miami was winning the game big. And so there I am on the sidelines in this blowout game, and I was amazed at the speed and the force that these guys hit each other with. And I thought to myself, my God, it's amazing that more players don't get hurt. So I have a great deal of, I don't know, I wonder. Listen, I covered 30 Super Bowls, so you know that I had some affinity for the game, and I like the game. But, boy, I wonder about it. I just wonder about the danger involved. And this episode with Damar Hamlin really brought it to the surface rather dramatically. So I don't know.
I equate it with boxing in the sense.
Same thing. You're right. And I covered plenty of boxing. And I covered a fight in Montreal in which a kid got killed. A boxer was hit and went down, and they carried him out. And the next day, it was announced that he had died. So
yeah.
Is this
was that Benedict Perret?
No, I remember the Kid Perret fight because I was
that was in Madison Square
Garden. I was
Okay.
in college, and that was on TV, and the number of us were watching it. And Emil Griffith hit Perret 19 times because when they replayed it, I counted the number of punches. And Perret was going into the corner, coming out. Griffith would hit him again, and the referee was, shall we say, lax in stopping it. And Perret died the next day.
And the referee was one of the best referees in the business, a guy named Ruby Goldstein.
Yeah.
Yes. A well-known and respected referee.
Now, the trouble that I have, and another one is horse racing. We run these horses into the ground. I've seen horses die on the track. Is this what entertains us? Is this what we need for entertainment? Auto racing. They have 400,000 people, and I've been there, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on Memorial Day. You know why they come? They don't come to see the race, how fast they ride, how fast the cars run. They come to see the crashes. And
Absolutely.
people have died on the track.
Absolutely.
Is this what we need for entertainment in this country? I'd rather watch Frank Sinatra sing a song. Well, not anymore.
I follow horse racing quite a bit, and most of the really top-notch horses are retired at the age of 3 because they're worth more at stud than they are racing.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah.
But still, you've seen horses. If you watch that many races, you've seen horses.
I've seen it. Yeah.
So there you go. Is this what entertains you? I mean, it doesn't entertain me to see things like that.
Well, I watch it. I watch it for the sport.
One solution would be flag football. But you know what? You know how many fans would come out to see flag football?
Zero,
exactly.
Yeah. The thing is that there was a game in 1971 that they brought this up. I remember it slightly, where a Lions player by the name of Chuck Hughes collapsed and died during the game.
Yes,
and they finished the game. This was 1971. And there were a couple of cases. I know the Jets in their early years, that they were still in the Polo Grounds. Maybe even called the Titans at the time. Some player went into the clubhouse after a game and collapsed and died.
I think his name was Shockley.
No, Howard Glenn, I think his name was.
Yes, it could be that too. Yes, It could be him.
We're talking about the danger of a sport. And my wife knows a little bit about brains because she was a psychologist in her working days. And she tells me about how the brain moves around in the skull when you have a concussion. And it's not a good thing to have that happen. The brain has to be stable. Well, concussions don't allow the brain to be stable. And how many concussions do we have in a season of the NFL?
Quite well. You got a lot of the players, retired players, come down with CTE.
That's right, exactly, and they die. They die young. They die young.
They're basically drilled into them. If they start playing when they're, preteen, and they start playing this, they're drilled into accepting. I've seen interviews with players, especially since the incident with Hillman, that they're drilled to, shrug off this stuff. Play hard. It's drilled in them. It becomes part of their psyche.
I read a quote the other day by, I think it might have been the late Don Drysdale, who said that if a player had a choice of giving up 5 years of his life, or many players, to win 20 games, they take 5 years of their life off just for the experience of winning 20 games. Now, what kind of a respect for life can a kid have to want to do that? I'm sure there are not many 80-year-olds or 75-year-olds thinking that kind of mindset. I mean, you have to cherish life, and athletics don't coincide with that. Your 4 or 5 different examples of sports, Hal, very well said. And that you remember Glenn, Alan Blumkin, and that was 1964.
No, it was before that. They were still in the Polo Grounds then. Yeah.
That right. They were the Titan. And Marty Rose and I used to go and sit with 200 of our closest friends and watch the Titans play in virtually empty Polo Grounds. Al Doro.
The great sports writer Warren Pack worked for the Journal American, and he wrote a story about a game after a game, and he said the crowd was 27,415, many of whom came disguised as empty seats.
Yeah, I remember that line. That's a great line. Hal, I just want to ask you one thing while we're on the topic of somebody mentioned Emil Griffith. I attended, it was 1965, and I attended a triple title boxing match at Madison Square Garden. Griffith was one of the guys. There were two other classes. Do you remember covering that, Hal?
No, I was not covering boxing in those days. I covered some boxing after that, and offhand I couldn't tell you what event that was. I don't know. But
well, it was just simply a card where there were 3 championships decided that day: middleweight, lightweight, this, that, or the other thing. I can't remember offhand the other guys, but my memory was sparked by...
You want to hear a quick little story? How far boxing has come down? A guy, a couple of years on Facebook, says, "Who is Anthony Joshua?" I think that's the name. So I said, "He's the heavyweight champion of the world." And the guy asked me, "How the hell do you know that?" I said, "I saw it on the ESPN scroll."
That's funny.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard of that guy.
That's how far down boxing
Where
has
did
come.
you hear that, Alan? Where did you see that?
Well, I saw on the ESPN. I was watching some game on the ESPN, and it came across on the scroll.
Oh, the crawl. You mean the crawl?
The crawl, yeah.
Well, boxing has fallen on hard times.
Yeah.
Since the retirement of Don King. Don King was a great promoter, and of course he had the guys to work with. He had fighters to work with who were compelling figures. The fighters today, you don't know one from the other. I mean, they're all mysterious people. There's no Muhammad Ali, and there's no Larry Holmes, and there's no George Foreman. George Foreman's birthday was today, 74 years old.
Wow.
Things I know that I shouldn't know.
What about Klitschko? He was
and ESPN is in bed with MMA. They're constantly pushing that stuff, which to me is totally disgusting.
Well, I would agree with you. Agree with you. It's just, all of this is, we're talking about safety here. We're talking about safety. Now, even hockey. Hockey is a collision sport. Basketball, which was designed to be a non-contact sport, is also a collision sport. That's why I was always, as a kid and as an adult and as an old man that I am today, baseball has always been my favorite sport because it's a thinking man's sport. There's no collisions necessarily. I mean, there are collisions, but they're not part of the game necessarily. George can comment on that because he played and his dad played. But it just seems to me that that's the most civilized of the sports that we have.
Hal, let me just say a mention about that because I just did a quick little down and dirty. I was looking through the internet. There were like 4 basketball players that have died prematurely, 2 football players, and 2 baseball players, of which one we all know about, Ray Chapman, when he got hit in the head. So, the pitch that killed, Carl Mays. So, baseball injuries are a little bit different than the injuries you see on the field. I don't recall any baseball players dying of a heart attack. I know of baseball players being severely injured, and you had players that are, some of their injuries, whether it be Achilles or hamstrings or shoulders or arms or whatever, but they're still able to function. The thing about football that's scary is that, and Alan, you mentioned it, I mean, a lot of these guys, after they retire, some of them are really suffering brain damage. And the same way with boxers. I mean, look at Muhammad Ali. I mean, as great a personality he was, you see him in the last few years of his life, Parkinson's and mumbling, and I mean, it was just a horrible thing to see.
It was very sad, yeah.
And that was brain damage. So, I mean, I think that all of the athletes certainly have problems, and it is a risk kind of sport, but the brain damage is one thing, and the heart being stopped on the field, and I think we mentioned Chuck Hughes with the Detroit Lions suffered a heart attack when he was playing. Back then, I'm sure they had virtually no medical technology to save him.
Yeah,
with Hamlin, I'd say the medical technology is what really saved his life.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
There's no question about that. Yeah, there was a player.
Then you get to the Stingley, which is Darryl Stingley, almost as bad as dying, and some could make a case worse, to be paralyzed and for the rest of your life. that sucks, of course. And I remember when I first got out of the Air Force, I sold insurance. And they told you that Monday nights you have to set up your whole week. And so I was deprived of watching Monday Night Football. And pretty soon I lost my fandom because Monday Night Football was so important to a fan. In other words, you get to Howard Cosell's wrap-up and you get to hear
the don't
game.
Bring him up. Oh,
well,
phony.
He was talented. Let's put it that way. He was a talented man, but not the nicest of people towards the end.
You know, you know what turned me on him? The Monday Night Football started in 1970. The second game was in Baltimore, and the halftime guest was Spiro Agnew. And Cosell spent the whole halftime sucking up to him. After that, I lost all respect for him.
Oh, okay. Well, when I think of Howard Cosell, I think of John Lennon and his announcement on Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football was immense in this country. And so my point is, I got out of the Air Force in 1969. So my Monday nights were taken up, and I slowly but surely lost my fandom. And the Darryl Stingley instance had a lot to do with it psychologically, you know. Anyway,
Darryl Stingley was hit by Jack Tatum. You know what Jack Tatum's nickname was?
The Assassin.
The Assassin.
Right.
Charming, right?
Yeah.
Charming.
Just for your guys' information, there was a baseball player named Herb Gorman, who had a cup of coffee in the major leagues, was playing for some Pacific Coast League team in 1953 in left field, and he dropped dead of a heart attack.
Well, I mean, people die, and you know, we all have a limited life list.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
and people die wherever you happen to be at that particular time.
Yeah,
but he didn't die because he got hit by a.
No, he
died
because he got hit by a baseball. No,
right,
he just
right.
dropped dead. Yeah,
that happens.
And then on the other hand, a guy named Hiller pitched for Detroit and had a heart attack, and John Hiller ended up coming back.
Yeah.
So, is there a prognosis for the kid that was hurt in Buffalo?
I think it's doubtful for this week. He's doubtful for this week's game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite a while before they. I'll be surprised if he ever plays again.
I would too.
Yeah.
But the league will they'll march him out there. If the Buffalo Bills advance through the playoffs, I'll guarantee you that this kid will be on the sidelines, maybe in civilian clothes, maybe in a uniform, I don't know. But they'll introduce him. Here he is, and the fans will go crazy. And that's right. Part of the NFL's PR operation.
And if they play a night game there, it'll be 12 degrees.
Well, that too.
If they play a day game, it'll be 20.
The kid will freeze to death. That'd be nice.
You know,
nice.
With the way the insurance premiums are set on these athletes, I can't imagine how anybody would pay on insuring this guy after what happened to him. I mean, the uninsurable to step out on the field in gear and play. It won't happen.
Well, like we talked about before, with the odd injury, it could be, if his heart wasn't damaged,
Well,
who knows? And just to see him out of the hospital a week later was unbelievable.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Blumkin, there's a funny story that they wrote in the paper the other day, that after that opening kick was returned for a touchdown, he jumped out of his chair and he set off all the alarms in the ICU at that Cincinnati hospital.
Yeah. I had heard that, Hal. You're right. So
Yeah, one of the big problems I have with the NFL, and I've been ranting about this to friends of mine for quite a while. This time of the year, they're playing night games in Buffalo, night games in Green Bay. As I told people, I said all the leagues, they don't give a damn about the fans. All they care about the fans is that the money rolls in.
of
And
course.
They play at 3 o'clock in the morning at the 7-degree weather if they thought they would get ratings and fans
That's
showing
what
up.
it's all about.
I know.
Don't worry me.
but this is nothing new.
You got to believe. The premise was
Sports
that
has been a
all the
business.
NFL was interested was making money, and in fact, a part of the plot was they decided they were going to move to Beijing, because they could get more revenue from the almost $1 billion. And that the whole premise of the book was about the NFL and money.
They're all like that. They're all like that. Baseball, you know what baseball is doing this year? Everybody's playing everybody.
And as for the
They cut down the
injuries,
interdivisional games, and everybody's playing everybody. So that's going to lead to a lot of fun when games get rained out. The team only comes in once, which is going to happen a lot more. And another thing that I've been telling people is that baseball is looking to expand, so they'll get 32 teams. They'll split it to 8 14 divisions like pro football. They'll have playoffs going to December, and they'll realign the leagues geographically. So instead of National and American, you'll have Eastern and Western.
Could happen.
wow.
Do you think any of you guys think I'm crazy about that?
Man,
No.
they're capable of anything, you know.
If they're going to
Give
move
us
the
a runner on second base in the extra innings.
Yeah.
Capable of anything.
or they're going to move the bases so that the runners have a better chance of getting.
Right.
That's
Right.
crazy. That's
Which automatically screws with the integrity of the record book, so that a Maury Wills can't be compared to whoever it is that's stealing bases
well, it's more
today.
than that. It's the fact that the diamond is a perfect number, 90 feet, 60 feet, 6 inches. Counted on.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Right. That's what's going to change, and it's going to just absolutely.
They're going to implement the pitch clock, and the pitcher is only going to be able to throw over the first base, I think, 2 or 3 times.
2 times. The third time, if he gets the runner on the third time, he's okay. But if he doesn't get the runner on the third time, it's a balk.
Oh, God.
The runner advances.
Oh.
I mean, these
Is
guys
that how it is?
Yeah. There's no question. But the suit filling the game. These crazy new rules. It's just awful. It really is terrible.
If you notice, the only conversation during the hot stove league, the winter months, is contracts.
Well, yeah, that's right.
That's the only subject. Nobody talks about anything. You heard about Carlos Correa today, I assume.
Yes, we know about it.
Yeah, I'm starting a GoFundMe page for him.
What happened?
That's funny, Alan.
No news. What happened to Correa?
He signed with the Twins for 6 years, only $200 million. And the Twins are so smart that they're giving Joey Gallo $11 million to strike out.
Yes. They must have gotten money from somewhere.
All right, guys. This has been a good show, an informative one. If not an upbeat one. Hope the kid keeps getting better, and let's do this consistently on the second week of the month, and make 2023 a healthy one, guys.
That's a good wish. That's a good wish.
Yes.
Full of
It is. You take care, everybody.
Okay.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
Thank you very much. The four lads, the four tops. They're
The
tops.
four freshmen.
The four freshmen. That's even better.
Four brothers, four.
You guys are tops in my book. Thank you for being my friends.
Okay.
And we'll talk next month, same place, same time.
Same bad time, same bad
Comfortably
channel. Yeah.
Zone Radio Network. Hal Bock, George Case III, Alan Blumkin, and David Hubler. A Southerner now.
Okay.
Go figure. Not a border state anymore, but a true Southerner. Thanks for being here, guys.
And I 2 points.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Adios.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.